Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to really cover some of the latest news and notes regarding the New York Jets. We have a couple of updates, nothing too crazy or anything like that, but definitely some stuff that I wanted to go over. So I think first off, we should talk about the whole Jadeveon Clowney situation. Clearly the Jets are still, despite being 5 deep at defensive end, Saleh, Ulbrich, Joe Douglas, they're still interested in adding, I would go as far as to say, an above-average pass rusher in the NFL in Jadeveon Clowney, right? Coming off a really good pass rushing season. I mean, this is somebody who really throughout the course of his career has been an above-average run blocker. He's been a part of different schemes, different teams, different defenses throughout the years, and he kind of has this like roller coaster type of career, right, where he has one really good season and then he'll follow it up with like a quiet year, and then he'll roar back up, and then it's another quiet year. So we'll see what happens on the Clowney front. Supposedly the meeting went really well, the visit went well. Joe Douglas really enjoyed his time with them, and there is a lot of speculation that there's heavy interest from both sides to get this done at some point in time. As far as the exact number would look, I wouldn't assume anything too crazy, but at the same time, I'm not really thinking anything super low as well. I would say anywhere really from like 5 to 10, 11 mil, somewhere in that range, would be a fair price for, what Jadeveon Clowney brings to a defense, as well as, kind of envisioning his role within the defense as well, pretty much replacing Bryce Huff in his production. So I think at some point, just trying to think about the other teams that maybe make sense for Clowney. You don't have like a long list, but in the minds of defensive coordinators and especially defensive head coaches, you can never have enough pass rushers. You can never have enough pass rushers. So Clowney will be signing with the team, and I feel like he would be bringing in a decent sized deal as well. So next up, the Michigan Pro Day was a few days ago, and obviously there was a bunch of eyes on it because of JJ McCarthy and his crazy rise to the top of the draft. I feel like anytime Jim Harbaugh has something to say about McCarthy, you go back and you check McCarthy's big board rankings according to like the draft insiders, and he just goes up with everything that Harbaugh says. But Nathaniel Hackett and 2 other Jets coaches attended the Pro Day. Now, it's a bit odd to see an offensive coordinator, fly out to a team facility for a pro day, for them to not really have much interest in any of the offensive players. Now, I'm not suggesting that the Jets like McCarthy here. They could, but not suggesting that. I feel like it was more so tied into wide receiver Roman Wilson, who's I feel like at this point in time, really cementing himself as that 2nd to 3rd round pick. There's been a lot of buzz surrounding Roman Wilson to the New York Jets, but more specifically, I think the Jets have interest in Zach Zinter, if I had to take a guess. Zinter's a guy who I feel like checks a ton of boxes. Somebody who would come in with a lot under his belt back at Michigan. At 6'6", 310, Zinter is an absolute force in the running game, as well as being a 3-time All Big Ten honorary player. So I feel like, man, there's a lot. I feel like Zinter does make a lot of sense as that depth move. The Jets, of course, have the 2 4th-round picks. So whether they select the 2 players, they package those 2 4ths to move up, maybe back into the 3rd round or something like that. I feel like there could be a lot of interest in Zach Zinter, just throwing it out there. But of course, Roman Wilson definitely involved as well. Now, last up, the New York Jets actually had their quarterback coach, who is now Todd Downing, right? Todd Downing got a promotion to QB coach. He is actually at the Tulane Pro Day today, right? Being hosted by the New Orleans Saints in the Dome. And they went to specifically watch Michael Pratt. Now, first off here, we take a look at the amount of interest, the level of interest the New York Jets have had in some of these quarterbacks in the draft. They've met with Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. They're going to meet with Jordan Travis. They're scouting Michael Pratt today. I believe the Jets actually flew out 5 coaches to the Oregon Pro Day. Part of that contingent was to specifically scout Bo Nix. We heard nothing but great things from the Senior Bowl when Jeff Ulbrich had a chance to coach Michael Penix. There is interest here, and I feel like it goes beyond just, okay, we have to figure out the big board up at the top of the draft, right? If that was the case, we wouldn't be operating like this, right? I think you know, nobody really knows for sure where these quarterbacks are exactly going to fall, if the Jets are going to select one, if they fall in love with one late. But I do feel like it's important to talk about the level of interest in these young quarterbacks, because there's just, you know, how is it that much of a coincidence, right? We're interested, we're meeting. I think Keaton Slovis is another interesting option. You know, I think mechanically speaking, he's awesome, flat out awesome. He's seen a lot of football, BYU, Pitt, USC. Spencer Rattler too, just such an effortless release. Somebody who's faced adversity, had to transfer over to South Carolina, and was able to do some really good things for, you know, the Gamecocks offense with Shane Beamer and co. But going back to Michael Pratt here, I mean, this is a well-decorated quarterback coming out of Tulane, and look, he had the opportunity to transfer a year ago, right? Ditch his last season at Tulane, go to a, you know, I would say like a bigger, like a Power 5 school, but he didn't do it. He had the opportunity to. He could have hopped in the portal, but he did not. He decided to stay. Pratt has good size. At 6'3", 220, he's 22 years old. He was the 2023 AAC Offensive Player of the Year. He has a lot of games, a lot of starts under his belt. At 35, he never really got hurt, makes good decisions with the football. He's, I would say, really good mechanically, and he's smart. You can tell he has a high offensive IQ. Kind of reminds me a bit of Aiden O'Connell coming out of Purdue, right? Where more of a pocket passer, doesn't have the biggest arm in the world, doesn't really, you know, force the ball down the field. You're not seeing like a ton of 60-yard bombs, 55-yard bombs down the field. Kind of nickel and dimes a defense. And I think, you know, if you take a guy who, again, makes good decisions, knows where to go with the football, can start a lot of games for a university, do it at such a high level to where you're the Offensive Player of the Year in that specific conference. I think when it comes to Nathaniel Hackett's system, there is a lot of carryover with the short passing attack, right? With the crossing patterns over the middle of the field. I mean, there were so many plays called, where it was just a small little slip screen to Breece Hall out of the backfield, right? There's, you know, the screens to the outside. I think there's going to continue to be an emphasis placed on the short passing attack, working off of play action and whatnot, and that's where Pratt really does, you know, the most of his damage. So we'll see how this whole thing plays out. Do you think it's a coincidence that the Jets are interested in this many quarterbacks? They're doing their homework on all these different guys, or is it just run of the mill? Got to establish the big board and just go from there. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.